So I'd like to talk a bit about the handstand kick-up, specifically the split leg kick-up, which is the standard beginner's way of kicking up. I'm going to start with a metaphor or an analogy. When I look at a handstand, or anyone should look at a handstand, we should look to be as tensed as possible without exerting too much energy. So what I mean by that is you want to keep tension in the body so that you can balance from your base of support. The same way as when you stand, you balance from the feet, more or less. You don't kind of wobble your body around too much above the base of support. Flip yourself around and this is the same thing that happens, or should happen at least. If, however, you're looking to try and balance and you're like a wet noodle or like a piece of rubber, there's a lot of white noise, a lot of chaos above the base of support, which makes it incredibly difficult to balance. And I think this is a big problem for beginners. And I want to use this metaphor, let's say, in the kick-up specifically, because there's many videos out there that talk about holding the handstand and keeping still and alignment drills and using the wall and blah, 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 blah. But the kick-up is an under-addressed issue because it's the hardest part of the handstand. It's a hard skill to understand, to learn, to be able to use enough force to get yourself over your base of support so you can use your fingers to balance and your hands to balance. Now, what I'd like to do is think about pushing the floor away rather than jumping upside down. So many people when they kick up, I've noticed, beginners especially, they try and kick up. Is my camera even on? Yeah. So many beginners and people you're learning the handstand, they try and kick up thinking about their legs and their feet getting as high as possible, as quickly as possible. Now this is all fine and dandy when you're against the wall and you have something to catch you, but as soon as it comes to then the middle of the room and you rely on the wall the whole time, there's no way for you to then make that gap from wall to no wall, because you have no understanding of how to actually catch yourself or stop or affect yourself once you're upside down over your base of support. So how will we do this? So if we take the idea of jumping for a second, so we remove the handstand idea. If I was to say, what's the best way to jump as high as possible? I'll give you two examples. The first one would be this. I jump and trying to get my feet as high as possible. But if I say I want to jump and get my hands as high as possible, or my center of mass as high as possible, which is the key part, I need to therefore push the floor away. So we'll take that idea into the handstand. Rather than kicking up like so, where someone places their hands and they jump their legs up and down, trying to get their feet up, or even like this, what I'd rather see is taking these two metaphors, the wooden tension metaphor and the pushing the floor away metaphor, into something that will give you more chance to catch, or at least understand how much force is needed to get upside down over your base of support. Like this. So I'm here, I think about pushing the floor away and coming down. Okay? So what I'm really trying to do is the leg that I kick with, the leg that I push the floor away with, is extending down and pushing the floor away from me. If I can try and keep this tension of the body, like the piece of wood, and push the floor away with enough force to get me upside down, but not too much that I swing over, you have a better chance of catching in a position that you can then alter the balance. Now, this won't get you the handstand, this will get you the start of it. You'll then have to isolate both the overbalance and underbalance parts of the handstand to then actually get the handstand, but at least this gives you an idea of how to possibly learn the kick-up. Another key detail that I'd like to just quickly address at the end is the head and the hip ratio. So what's happening or should happen is that there should be a more or less equal ratio between when the head goes down, the hips go up, and vice versa. And what we tend to see is the head and the hips actually doing the opposite. So what should happen is head goes down, hips go up, vice versa. But what tends to happen is you get to here with a beginner, then the head starts to go up and the hips try to go up. And what happens here is then we lose the integrity in the middle of the body, and the body turns from this to this. And this is where we get this arching banana type feeling and position. So thinking about pulling the sternum in, keeping tension, pushing the floor away, head and hip ratio. One or all of these cues could be really useful for you. To practice this, don't just play willy-nilly. That's one option, but it's not a very good one. Not a very good one, especially for practicing to improve. What I would suggest is learning how to underkick and overkick, so eventually you tune the guitar or tune yourself to understand how much force is necessary to get your weight over your base of support. So what I mean by that is this. You'll start, you'll do a small kick. Then you try to do a bigger one. Then you might try one that goes all the way over until you bail. And as long as you learn how to bail, you should be fine. Again, you'll do the same kind of repetitive motion, under, over, under, over, until you find that sweet spot that you can kind of control. And that's the key part that you have to then practice over and over and over again. One final note, a good thing to practice is coming down slowly, so you repeat the motion backwards. This makes the shoulders a little bit stronger and gives you a bit more time to work on that pattern without having to exert too much force going up because gravity is helping you. So for example, when you're up in the handstand, you come down slowly, trying to keep the shoulders above the base of support, and everything else articulates down. Enjoy. I hope that helps.